Joining us here on the DA Show is a friend of mine, longtime columnist for the Boston Globe, also at 985thesportshub.com, 985 The Sports Hub, my old home as well, and that is Dan Shaughnessy. Dan, good morning.
Hey, DA, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. These Nate Peterman Buffalo Bills duels with Tom Brady should go well, huh?
Well, again, people think that the mantra in Foxborough is do your job or no days off or next man up. It truly is. It's borrowed from ancient warriors. One is Napoleon, who said, never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake. And the other is from Sun Tzu, who I believe wrote The Art of War, which is, if you stand by the river long enough, eventually the bodies of your enemies will float by. And that is how the Patriots, they're good, but they're not this good. And everybody else, the tomato cans, they all fall down. And here we go again.
I was so surprised to see the Patriots trade Jimmy Garoppolo before the end of the season. I figured if it was going to happen, it would happen in the offseason. Were you surprised it happened during the season?
Well, I think that it reached a point where Bill didn't have any leverage. I think there was a little bit of a struggle there with ownership and the coach. I think the coach would have kept both quarterbacks and all that money, $40 million, whatever the ridiculous number it was. But I think that the threat was it would annoy Tom Brady to have a guy making all that money not playing on the bench. And I think it's way too much money to invest in one position. So ownership, I think, didn't want to do it. But if I'm Belichick, I would have stayed with that. And I think he was reluctant to part with Jimmy G.
How often does ownership stand in the way of what Belichick wants? I kind of felt like he had carte blanche no matter what he wants to do.
I think that's true, DA, and I think that's been one of the reasons they're as good as they are, is that Bob Kraft has learned to stand out of the way. And he learned his lesson under Parcells, 20 years ago, a long time ago. So, but I think with this one, it's so big. It's so much the future of the franchise. It's so much money. And it was really a seismic maneuver for the franchise to make. And I think that, I think at that level, they do get into it. And again, this is just stabbing in the dark. I don't know, but I know Bill, he liked this guy. He felt he had found the guy. And he didn't expect Tom to keep doing what he's doing. No one did. But I still think in a Belichick perfect world, he'd have them both.
Dan Shaughnessy, Boston Globe. One of your most recent pieces outlined that perhaps Belichick sticks around now to try to chase down Don Shula. Now, that would make about 7 years from now, and he would need double-digit wins at least every single season. That is a long ways away, but who knows about a robot, a cyborg like Bill Belichick. My question is, with this trade of Jimmy Garoppolo, is there any sense in your mind that maybe this is the first sign that Belichick would retire when Tom Brady retires?
I don't think that he will. And again, the Shula thing, that's a stab in the dark. I understand how preposterous that is. But Bill's, he would only be 72 years old, and we've seen guys do that. You'd have to keep winning, but if Tom can keep playing for 4 or 5 more years the way he says he can, and the competition, you continue to have, these teams in your division, it might be motivation. And I think deep down, DA, he probably wants to demonstrate that he can do this without Tom, or that he can win games without Tom and succeed at a high level. And the coaching disparity is so great in the league right now. I believe that he can do that if he were to stick around. So and he also, there's motivation there. He's a great football historian, as you know. And the only guys ahead of him now are Papa Bear Hallis and Don Shula, who Belichick hates. So that would be motivation as well.
So let's try to do the math here then. If you trade away Jimmy Garoppolo, you've got to bet on Tom Brady minimum this year and next year, because you wouldn't have the replacement for him for 2018.
Right.
Do you think that the math suggests they're betting on Brady beyond 2018, maybe 2019 and 2020?
It's a fascinating question. No, you cannot do that. I understand, that the rules favor the quarterback can go longer now and play later in life and all that sort of thing. But no, there's reasons that you don't do it at 42, 43, 44. And I think that will eventually, I don't care how pliable Tom is or how much avocado ice cream he eats, time waits for no man. And that will eventually catch up with them. It has to. There's a reason that, I can't dunk anymore. That's just the way it goes. So
I didn't know you could dunk originally. That's pretty good.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So I think that they got to be thinking of drafting this year and then developing, like you say. It's just it's just not realistic to think that you can keep doing this with a 42-year-old guy.
Dan Shaughnessy, Boston Globe. Let's look at the Boston Celtics. I can't believe they've been this good since the injury to Gordon Hayward. How much of this is a surprise to you based on Kyrie taking over, the loss of Hayward, and then also the development of the young kids? Is this a little startling to see how good they are this early?
Yeah, DA, the whole thing really is. I mean, with Hayward, this would be surprising. You know, they have like only 4 players left from last year's team. Last year's team, they win the conference best record, and you bring 4 guys back. That in itself is unprecedented. So you get all these new guys, then you lose your blue chip free agent 6 minutes into the season. You lose the next night back-to-back, so they're 0-2. And they go to Philly, and they were trailing in that game. I'm thinking, I'll readjust this 48 wins. We'll say 48. They go backwards a little bit. And all of a sudden, they are the story of the NBA, no question. And the showdown with the Warriors tomorrow night is a showcase showdown. But when you've got a team winning 13 in a row with what they've had, they had a concussion to Horford. Kyrie broke his face, missed some time. Tatum turned an ankle. But they're so far ahead of schedule, DA, it makes your head hurt. I mean, Brad Stevens, his greatness can't be understated. The conference is weak, kind of going back to the Patriot mantra. We know that, Eastern Conference is terrible, so they've benefited from that. I don't think they could beat, like, the Warriors or the Spurs on a regular basis in a 7-game series. But they can win tomorrow night at home and catch the Warriors on the road. They could go 14 in a row. This thing is there's no end in sight. And Tatum ends up being the best rookie. I mean, Danny pulled a Red Hour back there. He had the 1 pick, but he ended up dropping down to 3. It's like the Mikhail Parrish thing all over again. He gets the best rookie and something else for it, which was Robert Parrish in Reds Day, but I don't know if it'll be that good, but there's going to be more coming. His evaluation of talent, Ainge, is just, it's really good. They're rebounding this year. I think they're 4th in the NBA in rebounding. They were bad last year in the boards. And, Kyrie is just a way better player than Isaiah Thomas. I'm sorry. He's younger, he's taller, he's more confident, he's poised. He doesn't need that chip in his shoulder. He knows how good he is. And man, he's got a handle like nobody I've ever seen.
Fantastic point. Hey, finally on the Red Sox, we were talking about Giancarlo Stanton, and I don't know if he wants to go to the Red Sox, but would it be a mistake for the Red Sox to try to trade for a guy that you might be on the hook for nearly $300 million left in this deal?
Yeah, those things, those contracts don't pay off. You get 2 or 3 good years, whatever. I don't see it as a fit here, DA. They need home runs. We all know that, and they have big payroll. They can afford it. But they don't want to part with players and make that payroll and have a no-trade clause. And the guy has a no-trade. I believe he's already told his agent that Boston's not a place, and he'd be smart to do that. David Price should have done that. It's not for everybody. We understand that. So with the $300 million contract, the fact that you'd have to give up players and you can't trade him unless he's okay with it, I don't see them taking that on as much as, they'll go the Hosmer, Martinez route, something like that.
Dan Shaughnessy, Boston Globe, 98.5 The Sports Hub, and friend of the DA Show, joining us here on the show. You can follow him on Twitter at Dan_Shaughnessy, and, of course, read him in the Boston Globe, and you can do that online as well if you're outside of the Boston area. I always love catching up, man. Thanks so much, Dan.
Thanks, DA. You're the best.